Welcome to the Biscuits and Blurays podcast, where we watch Blu-rays and take the biscuit. I'm your host, James, and we continue doing our little run of the Evil Dead movies. I'm joined again by KissKatDoodles.
Hello, I am back again.
Two things. One, I couldn't get a guest, so you jumped in, so thank you very much. But two, I thought, seeing as the Evil Dead, we did Evil Dead last week, and basically what Evil Dead 2 is a soft remake by the exact same people of the first one. So it kind of works like in terms of themes, you know? So this episode is going to be better than the last one.
Yeah.
How about you? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine, thank you.
We've both watched Evil Dead today, Evil Dead 2
Yes.
today. So it's fresh in both our minds.
Yes.
I think Evil Dead 2 is one of the greatest films of all time.
That's a statement.
And I've always kind of thought that, but I've never really committed to it. Since watching it today, literally about half an hour ago, I finished watching it. Yeah, I stand by that.
You're fully committed to that statement now.
I'm fully leaned in. Yeah, I'm fully committed. Me and that statement are now in a committed relationship.
You're bonded for life.
We are married. Me and that statement. Yeah. How do you feel about Evil Dead 2?
I would say it's like the best of the franchise. I wouldn't say like best film ever, but that's just like my own opinions. So
yeah, of course. Yeah. When people say Evil Dead, people think, okay, chainsaw hand, this bit, and it's always from Evil Dead 2.
Yes.
So this is where the franchise peaks, but I mean that in the best of ways, because what follows is also very good. The big issue we should really talk about is the fact that they couldn't get the rights to their own film.
Yes.
So they said they were going to do a sequel, and it was going to follow on immedately. But I think it was New Line Cinema. They were just saying like, oh, you can't have it. You can't have Evil Dead. So they went, okay, we're just going to remake it.
We're going to do it again.
We're doing a recap, boys. I quite like the recap though.
I do as well.
Well, how did you feel going in from this to Evil Dead 2?
I really liked the fact that kind of like it reflects on the first film, but not like not a full recap, because obviously it's slightly different. Like straight from the start, it's not identical, but there's reminiscence of like the first film, like with some of the scenes and stuff. But I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I've never seen that with like second films to the first. I've never kind of seen it like reflect backwards, almost like not from like a word for word of the first film, but it's almost like a quick refresh. It's not like a whole remake, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the closest thing we get to that is probably, again, like Sam Raimi's opening to Spider-Man 2, where Spider-Man 1 plays out in the credit.
Yeah.
But even then, it's not a shot-by-shot retelling. What are the differences between the opening for this film and Evil Dead 1?
So in Evil Dead 1, you have all four of them, including Ash, in the car, and that's how it opens up. This time round, it's Ash and Lisa. It's only them two driving in the car. And that's kind of how it opens up, and they're both looking for the cabin. It's not almost put on Ash like the first film, where it's his friends. There was like a romantic getaway to the cabin.
I thought it was very sweet.
It was very wholesome until it wasn't.
Yeah. But I do like about this intro is that it really trims the fat, and it's just like, okay, 5 minutes in, barely even 5 minutes, I'd say. You're just like, right, tape recorder, evil chant, evil book.
Here we go.
Let's go. There's no real time to settle in, because it's just like a roller coaster from straight away. I really do like it trims the fat, and it goes, okay, it's literally just these two, and it's slightly different. But obviously, a little bit later, we'll talk about it in a second. But when there's a clear point where Evil Dead 1 ends, and there's a bit you can sort of overlap them.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I think that's really great. First of all, can you tell this film had a bigger budget than the last one?
Yes. I think in terms of like the cinematic like effects, you can definitely tell. Even like the introduction, because it opens up with like the Book of the Dead, and it's explaining almost like its origins kind of briefly, whereas in the first one you didn't get that. But the actual, in terms of effects, it was way better this time round.
Going to what you said about like the background of the book, I like that it's you get this little voiceover bit talking about the Necronomicon Ex Mortis sort of thing, and it's bound in human flesh, and it's human blood that's used to ink it. And you're like, okay, creepy.
Delicious.
Yeah, crusty. I imagine it's crusty.
Crusty.
Yeah. Obviously, Ash finds the little tape recording thing, and it's the owner of the cabin has gone, I've found this book, I'm going to translate it. And obviously, we know it's not going to go well. But it gets, is it Lisa, his girlfriend?
Linda.
Oh, Linda. So it's okay, because that was his girlfriend in the first one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it snatches her and she goes out into the woods. And straight away you're just like, okay, there's something different about this Ash than there was the last Ash.
He's very, very confident. He's playing more the heroic role this time round. He's not in the back lines waiting. He was very quick to get up and like check on Linda, and as soon as like he heard the smashing and everything, and he instantly knew something was wrong. Like he wasn't like the first one. He was like, "Oh, I actually don't really know what's happening." No, he knew something was up this time.
But what I didn't like is that he didn't waste any time in going, okay, the head's got to come off.
Yeah, straight up. Just, sorry, Linda, your head's gone.
Yeah, so you're gonna dive at me. She didn't really do anything to him. She was just like walking creepily toward him, and he was like,
yeah.
Okay. So she could have been having like a drunken episode or anything like this, and he's just gone, no, shovel, whack.
Sorry.
Sorry. One of my favorite shots of this franchise, really, because it happens again, is always going to be Bruce Campbell driving a crucifix into the ground.
Yes.
Right?
It's just perfect in every way.
But then it sort of descends into madness and chaos.
Yeah.
And it's a riot, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I'd say there's about 15 minutes where Bruce Campbell's completely on his own.
Yeah.
And there's no one to act against, and he's just being beaten shitless by I assume Sam Raimi, who is doing all that stuff.
Always. It's always I swear, he has a thing for like beating them all up, I swear. Especially Bruce.
Poor Bruce. But like I was watching it this time, and I was thinking, there's some sort of like parallel. There's got to be, right? And I'm probably thinking too much into this, but there's some sort of Alice in Wonderland nonsense happening here.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. It's almost psychedelic in that respect. I think it's because it's so twisted and warped, like reality, if that makes sense. Like it kind of has that, like you said, Alice in Wonderland effect. What's going on?
Yeah, well, because it happens when the Deadite gets possession of Ash, which is when the last film ends.
Yes.
And then it sort of like possesses him, and he's... First of all, I love the makeup of Deadite Ash.
It's so good. Like, it's genuinely terrifying, but I love the way you still know it's Ash, like, with his features and stuff. It's so good.
I don't think you can. I think it's... Yeah. I think that's the one that looks the most impressive. And I know there's there's plenty more later, but that's the one where I'm like, I don't recognize that as the person it was before.
I feel like it does a bit, but not as much as like the others. Like the others, you can kind of tell like who it was before, but it was definitely the most terrifying and kind of like breathtaking change. It was so dramatic as well because everything was very exaggerated, which I loved about like the whole Deadeye look with Ash.
Yeah. It possesses him in the daytime.
Yeah.
Did you notice this as well? That like they just don't come out in the day. And I have a theory.
You have a theory.
I have a theory. Okay, the film insinuates that Ash is, because he gets possessed and then it becomes daytime and he screams, it goes boz-eyed and he collapses on the floor. And the impression is he just sleeps through the day. My theory is he sleeps for multiple days, and I'll tell you why.
That would make sense.
I'll tell you why. Because I know it's a dream sequence. We learn it's a dream sequence. I know actually it's not, because it turns out it's real. He buries Linda's body and she's decayed beyond belief.
Yes.
And she was buried that night. So that's why I think he's out for days, maybe even weeks.
That's such a good point. Because now you think about it, because she was really withered and like gross when you next see her. That's a good point.
She looks very, the old lady from the TV show Benidorm.
Yes.
I imagine she was the body double for Linda. and that's really mean. But really tan, really leathery skin.
Yeah,
But that's my theory. I don't know if there's any merit to it. I'm just letting you. I'm just putting it out there, and I'm glad you agree.
I do agree.
Okay,
It may
good.
not be real, but I agree.
That's when things start to get a bit crazy for Ash. He goes back into the cabin because of course, you would, and he's like, okay. He sees Linda dancing in the yard,
Yes.
and then like her head's falling up. What do you think? What do you make of that?
I did find it quite funny, if I'm completely honest. It was so strange, especially compared to like how she was in like the first one and how like she was portrayed when she had like the Jedi. It was quite funny in the sense seeing her just dancing around at this point, and especially with like throwing her head around. I don't. There was quite like a little bit of a comedy to this one, that bit.
I want to know what happened to Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell to then go, okay, let's just play it for laughs. Is it?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it for the memes.
Yeah. Is it purely to just literally when we might not make another one, let's just throw everything at the wall and hope it sticks? Or do you think there is method in the madness?
Knowing him, there probably is method in the madness, but I still would find it funny regardless.
Sam Raimi's gone on record and saying he's a big fan of the Three Stooges, like really physical comedy, but like quite violent, which is in itself like similar to Tom and Jerry sort of stuff. And I bring up Tom and Jerry on purpose because I'm going to get back to it later. And it's my favorite special effect in the film is when Ash cuts up Linda, and he's like, "Oh, okay," and he's going crazy. He can't stop thinking about it, and then he goes to the mirror.
Oh, such a good scene.
But I've watched this film quite a lot, and like this time I really paid attention to this scene because I like it so much. I don't know how that is done because it's obviously not Bruce Campbell with his back to us, but
no,
and it's obviously Bruce Campbell in the mirror, and and they're doing the same movements, and it's really great. I can't see that there is no. He just sort of like steps out of the mirror.
It was so seamless, and that's the thing. What I kind of like was taken back of, and like usually you kind of almost see faults in those kind of scenes where like there is two of the same person, but it was so seamless and it was just so authentic, and I think that's what I loved about that bit.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying about the whole Alice in Wonderland madness sort of thing, because there's obviously the scene where Linda's head lands in his lap and bites his hand.
Yes. He is trying to shake off Linda's head for quite a while at this point. He is throwing it, hitting it, and he can't just seem to like make her let go. Then I think he runs into the tool shed and literally throws her head into a clamp. Just instantly, just no hesitation, put her in a clamp. And eventually I think she does release at that point, but her head's still in this clamp. And I think the Deadeye's trying to like torment him at this point because it keeps going back to how Linda looked originally.
Yeah.
And it really messes with his mind a bit more, but not like he wasn't thinking too much about it because he still didn't hesitate to put a chainsaw to this to through her head.
But one of my favorite reactions to this is where she's like normal again, and then she's like, "Oh, like don't do anything to me, Ash. I'm fine." And then he just goes like, "No!" at the top of his lungs, and then she goes, "Yes!" and she's like evil again, and he's like, "Oh."
He's like, "Wait a minute, nope."
He's like, "Oh, okay."
He's like, "Never mind."
So yeah, but his hand's been bitten, and if anyone who's up to date on the lore of Evil Dead knows that that's probably not gonna be on his body for much longer. When his hand gets possessed, first of all, I want to talk about how Bruce Campbell is like the master at physical comedy. What is he? Is he trained in this?
He has some sort of like magic, I swear.
It's very athletic.
Yeah.
Like the bit where he just grabs his head and then just flips on the floor for no reason.
It's so well done.
But the thing is, you'd have to be careful to make sure that everything in that set would be smashable. Because he's just grabbing anything at that point.
Yeah, he's going manic.
Yeah. And his hand's been like sort of in control of itself, sort of thing. It smashes him over the head and it sees an axe. First of all, I love that the hand has personality.
Yes.
Like it's something I haven't seen Wednesday or any Addams Family thing.
He reminds me of Thing. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But who'd win in a fight?
Oh, maybe Bruce's hand.
You think Ash's hand straight up?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say so.
What I imagine it would be some kind of thumb war.
Maybe. Arm
Remember?
wrestle. But we just with the hands.
And so yeah, so the hands crawling towards this axe, and then Bruce. I keep saying Bruce. Ash wakes up and cuts his hand off, which then leads to the funniest joke in the film for me is when he puts a bucket over it, and then he gets a few books, and one of them is a farewell to arms.
I loved how like it's it's ironic humor. I noticed it straight away, and I thought it was very funny.
Like very clever, which
Yeah.
that joke doesn't belong here, right? That's some sort of Monty
No.
Python stuff. Meanwhile, what's happening outside of the cabin?
I think we are introduced to Annie and Ed, I believe.
Annie, Ed, Jake, and Bobby Joe.
Yep. Annie comes off this plane and she greets Ed. She's just come back, I think, from this expedition somewhere. And she's managed to get pages from the Book of the Dead. But it's then revealed that it was her father who was originally the one who was looking into the Book of the Dead and its origins. And she wanted to go back home. Both Annie and Ed go wandering down, trying to go back to the cabin. And lo and behold, the bridge is gone.
The bridge looks like a hand.
Yes.
Spooky. Yeah.
Spooky. We meet Bobby Joe, and then we meet Jake, who
And
are kind of like, well, you're not going to get past that.
yeah, we're going to take you on this trail to the cabin, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I knows them woods. Yeah.
I know the back of them woods.
I know them woods that back my head. So that's happening. So we have other characters coming into the chaos. Meanwhile, Ash is still not having a good time with his hand.
No.
Which is a sentence I didn't think I'd say. This is where it goes a bit Tom and Jerry for me, in the best possible way.
Yeah.
Because his hand is the Jerry to his Tom, albeit his shotgun tooting handless Tom. Yeah. I really love that it gives him the middle finger.
It was so funny.
It's so fucking funny, right? But then the Deadite is still controlling the chaos around him. For instance, he thinks he shot it in the wall, and then the wall starts bleeding. He's like, "Yeah, I got you, whatever." But then the wall just starts gushing blood, but then not blood also.
Yeah, it almost went black, didn't it?
There's actually a reason for this. It's because obviously the hassle they had with the video nasties with the first one.
Yeah.
They thought we can't get away with it again. So the reason it goes green and then black is because then it's not blood. If you're showing a certain amount of blood, you'd be like, okay, this is blood from a human or whatever. This is not going to get past the sensors. Whereas if it's just like an ooze or something, not a problem.
That's very clever, actually.
Yeah. Because Sam Raimi like famously got sued and like went to court over the first one. And I think I don't think he'd ever want to do that again.
No, I don't think so. I think it adds to it though. I feel like it doesn't need to be all like red to know what's going on.
Like we know what it's supposed to be. We can suspend our disbelief a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we get to the laughing scene.
Yes.
Which is the best scene of the film?
Yeah, I would say so.
So he goes to sit down on a chair, and the chair breaks, and then there's a deer head above the fireplace, and it just starts laughing at him. But then so does the lamp. But then so does the books, and then like everything.
So does all the furniture.
Yeah, and then he's just like, okay, well, if you can't beat him, join him, sort of thing.
Yeah.
People say horror doesn't get recognized in terms of its quality of acting. For instance, Toni Collette, Hereditary, Lupita Nyong'o, us. But no one ever talks about Bruce Campbell in this film.
I don't know why.
Like, obviously, it's not Oscar worthy. Of course it's not.
No.
But there's a lot more to it than I think just laughing and screaming.
There's a lot of emotion played out in that scene, and I feel like you're almost like conflicted and thinking, like, is he generally finding something funny, or is it just it's like almost like psychopathic laughing? It's so manic, and he's becomes almost crazed at that point, and you can see it almost in his facial expression and his body language, where it's so different from just genuine laughter. I think that's what adds to the more creepy feel to it.
I completely agree. There's a bit where like he's laughing and you think, oh, this is fun. And it is funny, but then towards the end of it, he's screaming.
Yeah.
Like he just can't take it anymore, and it's clearly taking a toll. If it weren't for that bit, you'd be like, oh, okay, this is nonsense. But because of that bit, I think that's some of the best acting in horror ever.
It's so good though. I fully agree with you.
But then he shoots at the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, he snaps out of it quickly. There's a noise at the door. This is where he meets everyone else because it's Annie's
And Jacob.
Yeah, because it's Annie's dad's cabin. She
Yes.
thinks she sees all the madness, all the blood, and everything, and is like, "Well, my dad's not around here, is he?" So, like,
You did it.
yeah. And then Jake throws Ash into the cellar. This is when we meet Henrietta.
Yes.
Henrietta is Annie's mum, and we learn through more of the translation that she was possessed, and Annie's dad had to bury her in the fruit cellar.
She was probably one of the, like, if not like one of the most scariest like dead eyes in the film, I would say. It really took me by surprise, and like she was very violent. I know all of them were very violent, but she was in particularly more so. Like she starts lashing out at Ash just straight off the bat, and as soon as he's like almost thrown in there, which is the only reason he gets let out at that point, because they're making such a ruckus down there. That's when they pull him up, and I think reality kicks in. Oh yeah, it wasn't Ash who killed my dad, was it? No.
Yeah. I really like Ash's scream when Henrietta pops up. It's like the girliest scream of all. Henrietta is played by Ted Raimi. That's Sam Raimi's brother and like a writer on Army of Darkness and stuff like this. He was in like a fat suit and it was horrible for him apparently because he couldn't see anything because of the bloody contact lenses. Just struggling to walk because of that fat suit. It's ridiculous the lengths people go to have a good time.
Always.
What do you think to the Henrietta like long neck thing?
It surprised me straight off. I didn't expect it, to be honest, but I feel like it adds more to the horror aspects, and it was leaning more out of creepy into horror at that point, because I feel like it was so demonic and so twisted that I was taken back, and I would have been shocked if I saw that, let alone these guys. Like, I think it adds a completely different tone when we had like the long neck creature thing.
I do like that. Obviously, the Deadites are still some sort of human, but then this long neck thing comes out, and you're like, okay, we're dealing with something a lot bigger than this, right?
That's a big boy. Yeah, fully.
That's a big old neck. The neck was played by Andrew Garfield. He's got a big old long.
Oh no! I
can't believe Andrew Garfield was stand-in for this.
Amazing, honestly. He deserves an Oscar right now.
Yeah, the range on it, yeah.
On the
range. Anyway, Henrietta's put back in your basket, and not before a Sam Raimi eye pop.
Hilarious. I thought it was really funny.
I'm trying to think how many other films he's done that in. Correct me if I'm wrong, but did he do it in Multiverse of Madness?
Wait, I don't think it pops, but you see Wanda's eye.
So okay, and someone stabs it, don't they, or something? Oh wait, that's Drag Me to Hell. Oh my god, Sam Raimi and eyes.
He's got a thing for eyeballs.
Doesn't like eyeballs, okay? But who does? That was actually referenced in Evil Dead Rise, which I can't wait for you to see now after watching this. So everyone calms down. Everyone's like, okay, this is the sitch. Then we get everyone sort of like come together, and then we get noises coming from everywhere.
I feel like it kind of needed to die down a little bit, almost to see like who actually were these other people, because you don't really get much of like who they are at that point. And that's when you find out more about Annie and her relationship with her dad and what her dad was doing. And it wasn't for long because it quickly sped up again. Ed gets possessed.
Oh God, yeah. Oh, poor Ed.
Yeah.
He had like 2 lines.
He deserved better.
There is stuff cut out of this. This isn't the full director's cut. For instance, you'll be able to find it. I don't know if you do a quick Google, but Ed, Evil Dead, whatever, but half of his head is missing.
Really?
When Ash runs at him with an axe and he sort of chops him, they did do him cutting his head completely in half.
Oh my God, they did. I just quickly
okay, no, I assumed you did. Yeah, but like, why is that not in the? I feel like that's the censors, but put it in.
Yeah, I mean, add a little bit. Come on.
So, but here's the thing: if this film was made today, we'd be like, okay, release the Raimi cut. Back then, if it's on the cutting room floor, it's in the bin, which is kind of sucks. Then we get into something that the Evil Dead franchise doesn't do that often. It goes quite ghostly.
Yeah.
Where Annie's dad appears as an apparition and is like, woo, don't like this is what you have to do. Woo.
Spooky.
Like, but then nothing else like that ever happens in any of the Evil Dead films.
You're just like, what was that?
Yeah, it's like, okay, cool. I am there for it, like absolutely.
Yeah, it makes sense, but
it does make sense. Yeah, it's a MacGuffin, like completely. But yeah, bring it back. No, why not? They've got a plan. They've got right. This is what we have to do. We have to say this, and then once we've done that bit, it becomes like a being. Like we can kill it. Like if it bleeds, we can kill it. I don't mean but and then that's when we can put it through a wormhole and completely get rid.
Yeah.
The ending of the film is foreshadowed.
Yeah, it is. It's hidden in the pages of what Annie finds, isn't it? Yeah, I loved that. I thought it was really good because it was the only two I saw the end. I was like, oh, we've seen this before.
But I never noticed what Ash says about it. They go, "Who's this?" And then it's clearly a picture of Ash holding his chainsaw in the air, surrounded by like knights of armor. And then Annie says, "Oh, this is the guy who they called him the savior from the stars or something, and he put an end to this Deadite stuff." And then Ash says, "Well, he didn't do a very good job."
Very good job. You're like, well, sweetie, that's you.
Yeah, you got a big storm coming, sir. Which I thought was really great, and I never got it until like this time I watched it. But Bobby Lee is scared, and she's holding onto a hand. It's not anyone's hand.
Nope.
Ash hand.
Ash hand. He's back.
Ash hand. Whoa. Spin off, just Ash hand.
Ash hand.
So she runs off into the woods.
Yeah.
This is where we get the tree stuff again.
Yeah.
Now, your feelings were made quite clear in the last episode about the tree stuff in the first one. And I completely agree. But for anyone who didn't listen to that one, please reiterate your feelings on it.
It is unnecessary. It's not necessary at all. I just don't think it needed to be that extreme. Yeah. And it's toned down a bit in this one.
Again, I'd say it's toned down quite a lot.
Yeah, it was. And I feel like Sam Raimi learned from, I think, what happened and the response in the first film. Yeah, I hated the bit in the first film. I didn't think it was necessary. It was way better this time around. It still made sense. Like, it wasn't, like, not completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was way better this time.
So she's out. Bobby Lee.
She's gone.
Oh, one for the woods. So Jake's like, we've got to go get her. But Ash and Annie are very, nope, stick to the plan. She's in the
gone.
woods.
She's dead.
Yeah, she's gone. Like, but if that was one of their crowd, they'd be like, oh, we've got to go save her. But because it's Bobby Lee who's made no impression on anyone.
They're like, no, we ain't going out there, mate. No, she's done.
Yeah,
she's cannon fodder.
Don't worry about it, Jake. It's fine.
Let's move
then,
on, Jake.
Yeah. But Jake steals the gun and forces them to go look for her.
Yeah, so they go off into the woods. At that point, I think before they go out into the woods, I think Annie starts reading about like the that you can manifest like this rift and stuff. And Jake does throw all the papers in the cellar before they have to go out into the woods.
Oh, well, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and at that point they're like, "Oh, screw this guy! Fine, I'm going out into the woods at this point because they're held at gunpoint."
Mm-hmm.
And then, boom! Ash has got the dead eye again.
Always
tries
good.
to attack
Always good to see. Yeah.
It's always great. I was like, "Oh, here he comes! He's back!
Oh, here he is.
Here he is! He's insane!" Like, I love Deadeye Ash. I'm here for it.
Me too. He's so strong and.
What a man.
Did I ask? But he throws Jake against the tree, which no one comes back from, but Jake does. And then I can't remember what he does to Annie. Or does he just chase after? I think he just chases after Annie.
Yeah, Annie makes it back into the cabin, I think, at that point.
And then he's like banging on the door. First of all, Annie's screaming is intolerable.
Yeah.
It's very high. It's very squeaky. And it like it kind of breaks the microphone. You know, when you hear someone screaming into a microphone and it breaks it.
Yeah.
It kind of does that.
Mm.
And I'm just like, this is gross.
You're just like, shut up, please.
It's always the same scream. Like,
yeah, I know.
Just like,
we use the same soundtrack?
Probably. Is that the one scream you have?
Variety.
Yeah, give us a scream and another scream. Oh, they're the same. Okay, we'll just use that.
That's good enough.
Yeah, that's good enough for me. Okay, cool. But anyway, she starts hearing banging on the door and she gets a big old, very, very antique, I want to say steak.
Yeah.
Okay. And she's like, okay, I'm going to see what's at the door. And it's Jake.
Whoopsies. Sorry, Jake.
Jake got staked.
Through the chest. Jake got staked.
I'm going to put
and
that
she's
there.
just like, oh, I'm sorry.
And she's like, oh, no, okay, I'm sorry. And he just falls to the
sorry.
floor. Anyway, Ash is like still there, though.
He's still like outside just having a whale of a time, just hitting everything at this point.
This is where I want to bring up the video game. Have you played the video game?
No, I have not.
Okay. It sort of plays like Dead by Daylight, but there's a function in it where if you play as a Deadeye, you can teleport from place to place.
Oh.
I bring this up because when Annie's back in the building, she leaves the door open, and then there's a shot of the door, and like there's no one there. And then Ash just pops up like from the ground. So I'm gonna say that the Deadites teleport.
It would make sense, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the video game, absolutely. You've got to have something to keep your game.
Got to play a balance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Annie tries to get Jake back into the building, and she does such a terrible job. Isn't she like a smart person? She's the smartest person in this film, right?
Supposed to be, yeah.
A, don't stab someone through the heart with a stake, whose name happens to be Jake. And B, if you're going to pull him to safety, make sure his feet are out of the way.
Exactly. Like, just move his legs. Why did it take her so long to move the legs out the doorway? Like, bro,
it wasn't even that. She tried slamming it, and he was in the way, and he was like, ah! and then she's like, okay, I'm sorry. And then she moves him a little bit, but then still slams it, and it's just on his feet, and he's
poor
like,
guy. He's got stabbed in the chest, and his poor feet are getting slammed in the door.
Oh, and his girlfriend's missing it. Wow, poor Jake. So anyway, she drags him to safety and puts him exactly next to the trapdoor.
Good planning.
She's the smartest person in this.
Idiot. She's just like, you know what? This is a good spot right here.
This good spot, yeah. This guy, smash his feet. Maybe she just didn't like him in the first place.
It was all a plan. She had this plan in her head.
Oh, so you think this was a murder ploy?
Maybe.
Okay, right. So anyway, Henrietta bursts out of the cellar. She's like, nom 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 nom. That's the best way I can describe that.
Delicious. She's like, good soup.
So Jake's gone. There's no more Jakes. It's literally just Annie, Henrietta, and Ash now.
Yep.
Would you believe it? Ash is back in the building. Again, why I think he can teleport. He throws her across the room, and then he finds Linda's necklace on the floor. I didn't notice this any other time I've watched it until just now. The necklace is in the shape of a skull.
Is it?
Did you not catch it? Oh my god.
No.
I did the Leo DiCaprio thing.
The meme.
Yeah. I was like, that's in the shape of a skull. And I was just like, oh, okay. This is why I think this is the greatest film of all time. But Ash is having so apparently you can fight deadites with emotion.
Oh.
So like you can just not be possessed.
Yeah.
I think it works for Ash. I don't. Ash is the only one that can get away with it, really.
I think Ash is the only one who like it would make sense, like who could come back from that. His emotion is such a big, like it's seen so often throughout the film on how he's dealing with everything. So I felt like it was only meant for Ash at that point. I felt like I don't reckon any of the others could come back from that.
Which is a shame. But anyway, he comes back, and then Linda thinks, oh, okay, I need to kill Ash. Takes an axe to him, and then he's like, I'm okay, I'm okay. But then she does it again, and then he's like, I'm all right, I'm all right.
He's just screaming at her, like, please, just stop.
Yeah. Actually, Bruce Campbell's really good at playing the like, please don't hurt me sort of thing. I think he's such a talented actor. So they have to go back into the cellar, and this is where it gets a little bit survival horror-esque.
Yeah.
In terms of there's a lot of first person shots and you don't know what could happen next. You don't know if Henrietta is going to pop out or what.
Yeah, you kind of like, where is she at this point?
Because you know she's down there.
Yeah.
And I think the Evil Dead films are very good at putting stuff in the cellar and then being like, okay, this cellar's actually quite big.
Yeah.
So Ash, after a few tiny jump scares, Ash finds the pages for the book that they need. Henrietta just grab him though.
Yes.
And fucking makes a mess of the stairs getting back up. And then she pops out of the cellar and starts having a go at Annie. One thing we did skip over, just going backwards a little bit, is the chainsaw, getting ready with the chainsaw.
Yes, oh my god.
I can't believe we missed it.
That's such an important bit of this.
No. So they know, Annie and Ash know they have to go into the cellar. And to do so, they need a chainsaw hand, right? It's the best way of
absolutely.
And
yeah.
I want to say this is the template for any of Edgar Wright's movies.
Yeah.
Like smash cut, very quick, very snappy shots, great sound effects, and then just like a one-liner.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a great one-liner.
Would you care to deliver that one-liner for us?
Groovy.
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 Oh, groovy, baby. That's what he says. No, that's not what he says. He says he just says groovy, and it's honestly Bruce Campbell. Does Bruce Campbell ever have to work again, knowing that he's done that 5 seconds of film?
No, he's got it in the bag.
Yeah, right, exactly. This is like he wouldn't need to. He's never going to look that cool again. I mean, he's
peaked at that moment.
I think. Do you think he knew at that point? He's just like, right, I'm not going to top this.
Yeah, this is it.
They're going to make gifs of this. Ash pops out of the cellar to save Annie.
Yeah.
Shirt torn. Honestly, Bruce Campbell has never looked better. Like, right, come get some. And starts having a fight.
Yep.
We get a call back to the hush little baby, don't say a word.
Yep, that we do.
Yep. And then Ash, there's an arm over there, and there's a leg over there, and really does a number on Henrietta. Not before Andrew Garfield rocks up again.
Yes. And
then the head's off and everything, and then the body falls. And then Henrietta's head is just like, I'll swallow your soul, I'll swallow your soul. And then again, it's just one-liner after one-liner. He just says, swallow this. Bang. Right?
It was great. Loved it.
Such an icon. I think that this film can't be as horrific as the last one because this has a lot more action than the last one.
Yeah, there's way more action in this one.
I mean, no, I wouldn't say way more. I'd say just a little bit more. But even because there's like zero action in the last one, you go, okay.
But we get more action from Ash in the sense, like, as him as a character, I feel like you get more in his fights, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but there's a lot of punching, there's a lot of
and
stuff like that. Yeah. Absolutely. So Annie decides to read the rest of the pages they need, and it's come into a physical form, like a big fuck off thing.
Big fleshy thing.
A big old fleshy boy. um, how do you feel about that? The Evil Dead franchise again has these sort of big creatures from, I'd say, from this one onwards, and well, maybe until Army of Darkness, I think it stops. Do you feel like the Evil Dead franchise is missing these sort of big, grotesque creatures, or are you happy for them to stay humanoid?
I quite liked the big, gross creature. I felt like it was almost like this is like the very thing you're fighting. This is like the big counterpart to Ash. I feel like you gotta have, I think, a balance, and that was it. And I felt like it was necessary at that point. I feel like the films are good without it, but I did enjoy having like this big, like fleshy mob.
Yeah. A final boss. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Annie's just about to finish translating the words, and she's stabbed by, again, our old friend.
Ashhand.
Ashhand.
He's back. Again.
He's back. Who else but Ashhand? So she's gone, which is a shame because she was such an idiot. She made poor decisions. Probably one of them would be the outfit, but let's not go into that.
The outfit.
And upon seeing this big fleshy boy, Ash's hair goes silver.
Yeah.
Which I figured out is something that can happen to your hair in a state of shock.
Yes.
I learned this 10 minutes ago. Is that a thing?
Love that.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is, because I feel like if you go through enough, I think, trauma and emotion, your hair will turn grey. Not that quick, obviously, but it can cause grey hair.
Wow. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Don't be stressed, kids.
Hey, kids. Ashhand. Ashhand's got you back, yeah. Which then begs the question: if the MCU happened many years ago, would Bruce Campbell have been cast as Doctor Strange?
That's a good question. Maybe the 80s version of the MCU, he's Doctor Strange.
I'd like it. I think he should be a variant for Doctor Strange, but just like with a chainsaw arm and still doing all that stuff. So Ash is sucked into the vortex.
Yeah.
Which we need to defeat the final boss. And he's transported back into ye olde times, medieval times.
Yeah.
The Sam Raimi's car, and a tree lands, and then he lands. Quite a very good shot of them all landing at the same time. And all these soldiers in shining armor come up, and they're like, we've got to kill this thing that's fallen from the sky. But then Deadeye.
Another one.
This one with this, they fly now. They fly now.
They fly now.
They fly now. And Ash shoots it. And then there's a very good Sam Raimi cameo of him going, he'd come from the sky to save us. Sam Raimi has a lisp. He'd come from the sky to save us. Hail, hail. And Bruce Campbell does his usual screaming at no one. And the film ends. If you didn't know there would be another one, how would this ending work for you? If
I didn't know there was going to be another one after it, I would be constantly thinking about like what could happen, because it almost has like that psychological effect on like how horror films have that ending, what makes you think. And it's definitely one of those kind of endings, because you're thinking, where is he? What's happening? Is he alive? Is he dead? I enjoy that, but I think it's because I do know what like there is others after it. It kind of loses that a little bit. But if I did know there was nothing else after, I'd just be in complete confusion at that point.
Can you imagine? But it's foreshadowed earlier on in the film. But I think you'd hope they were getting another one. Thank God they did.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to just sit with that, but like, oh yeah, no, that's done. No.
Yeah, release the Raimi cut. Absolutely.
The Raimi cut.
So that's Evil Dead 2. Honestly, I had such a great time watching it today. I can't speak for you.
I loved it. I thought it was really good.
Had you seen it before?
I don't think I have seen it before. I think I've seen the first film and the third, but never like the second. It was kind of one I just didn't end up watching.
Okay, that's interesting. Did you think it was better than Space Jam?
I do.
Yes.
I really enjoyed it. I knew like I had high hopes for this film, because I know how much you love this film anyway.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm in for a treat. So I was very much, okay, is it going to live up to the hype? It did, very much so. I loved it. I thought it was really good.
Well, here's the thing. When you said yesterday that the first one wasn't better than Space Jam, I was like, oh shit. If she didn't like that one, I don't know what she's going to think to this one. But I think this one's so different from the first one, and it's all very tongue in cheek, and everyone's clearly having a whale of a time. It worked.
So I said the first one wasn't better than Space Jam. I knew there was films in the franchise what definitely are. So yeah. I was a little harsh in the first film. I'm sorry, but
it's okay. It's okay. You're forgiven because you like this one.
I'm a redeemed. I did. Yeah, this one's great.
This one's fucking awesome. This is okay. You haven't seen Rise, but have you seen the remake?
Yes.
Yeah. How would you rank the Evil Dead films that you've seen? 1, 2, 3, and remake.
2 is definitely now at number 1 for me.
Uh-huh.
Then it's probably Army of Darkness.
Okay, that's interesting.
I quite liked Army of Darkness. Then it's probably maybe the remake. I just don't like the first one. I don't know why. I just feel like there was so much, like it had so much redemption after the first film, but it was very necessary. I don't think without the first film we wouldn't have got what we do now with the rest of them.
Absolutely, yeah. But I feel like this is very much lightning in a bottle. Like you couldn't. The franchise now has gone so far the other way.
Yeah.
That if they go, okay, comedy again, A, there's going to be no one good enough to do it, and B, people are going to be like, well, that's Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
So I feel like the franchise, unfortunately, is set in its ways now, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
No.
There's quite a bit more comedy in Evil Dead Rise, whether it's intentional or not, and quite a lot of callbacks to the second one, this one.
Yeah.
Where you go, oh, okay, that's funny, but it's still played very much like the remake. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. It had like essence of like the originals in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah. I'm really glad I'm really glad you enjoyed Evil Dead 2 though. Oh my god. One thing I would like to bring up, if you liked, this is to you, Kat. This is not to the general public that are listening. Hello, you.
Oh.
Hello, you people.
Hello.
But there is an Evil Dead musical.
Is there?
Okay. Strap in because it's a whale of a time. Okay. I didn't know about it until I was in HMV when I was like 18 years old. And I was like, Evil Dead the musical, what's this? And I bought the album for it, and I don't know where it's gone. You can find it on YouTube, but it's ridiculous. It takes the plot of the first one, but then sort of like weaves in the second one.
Yeah.
It's bonkers. For instance, when Linda gets possessed in the first one, she does a big like rock number sort of thing. And then they shoot, like they trap her in the trapdoor, and then Ash and Scott sing a song called "What the Fuck Was That?" And there's a lot more. Jake gets a solo. Jake gets a good old reliable Jake, and he sings a song about how reliable he is and what he's done in his life. Ed gets a song about being a bit part demon, where he has no lines, but he pops up and everyone remembers him, and then he's out of the film. It's really good. I'm going to send it to you as soon as we're done. It's so great.
Oh my god. That sounds honestly hilarious, first off, and brilliant. How did I not know about that?
Oh my god, I'm straight up sending it to you. But people might be interested in that as well. Evil Dead the musical. Let's get it back on Broadway, baby.
I would so watch that.
Kat from KissKatDoodles, it has been a pleasure as always.
Thank you so much for having me back.
You're welcome. This is you done for the rest of the season. Now you can sit the rest of it out and join in the listeners.
I know. I'm going back to the ways of being on the other end. It's very bit strange now.
Yeah. But you've done awesome, and I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Oh. Thank you so much.
Everyone follow KissKatDoodles. She's the best, and her artwork is phenomenal. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that was it for Biscuits and Blurays this week. Join us next week, where I'm joined by Tipsy Flicks. Hello, Tipsy Flicks. And we're talking about Army of Darkness. It continues. But thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for listening.